been spending most our time talking about some songs by old white guys. We've been spending most our time talking about some songs by old white guys. We've been spending most our time talking about some songs by old white guys. We've been spending most our time talking about some songs by old white guys. Rest in peace, Coolio.
Rest in peace, Coolio. Well, that was sad news to hear when that happened. Was not expecting that one. Let's talk about happier times. Hopefully, at least, hopefully these songs are good. But Brooklyn, we're here at the finale.
We're here, yeah. I'm actually here this time.
Yeah, you are here this time.
Yeah.
We had a great episode with Mike Hanley. The word gonads got dropped a lot.
Was there a great fucking song?
There were a couple great fucking songs, apparently.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's all we need to hear.
Cannot wait for you to watch that episode. Can't wait for you guys to watch that episode as well. But Brooklyn, we're here at the finale. I feel like we've talked about a lot of songs on this series.
By old white guys.
A lot of songs by old white guys. A lot of songs by old white guys that kept popping up over and over again. Maybe we'll see them. But we don't have an old white guy as our guest today.
We don't.
We have Kelly Meehan.
I was going to say, don't go there.
No. Thought about it.
We are the same age, so yeah.
This is true. But yes, Kelly, thank you for coming on. You contacted me saying I want to be on an episode, but I just scheduling things. We need to figure out something ahead of time. So Brooklyn and I looked at each other and went, the finale. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But now it's my personal mission to say gonads more times than was on the previous episode, so that might not have been the right choice.
It was at least 6, so you're gonna have to.
Okay. I don't think I can slip that in that many times.
Well, we've already done it once, so we'll see how far we go.
That's twice now.
Oh, twice. All right, you're about a third of the way there already.
It's the morning, I'm awake.
But yeah, so thank you for coming on. We love having you here. And that's the episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, bye.
But actually, let's get started with the list. Starting with number 113 previously, That's All Right by Elvis Presley. And so I listened to the song once. I listened to the song twice. And after the third time I listened to it, I said to myself, that's all right.
Andrew, get the fuck out of here. It is 8:44 p.m. Teeth and jammies.
We've already started. But no, that's legit my thoughts on this song. This is all right. What the hell was it doing at number 113? That is way too high. The fact that it was even on the list to begin with is kind of insane. Once again, old white guys voting for Elvis Presley. It's also not bad. Elvis sounds good on it, I guess, but even the band is just okay. Something I've praised on Elvis's songs over and over and over again. They're just fine on this. 113 should have never happened for this song. Kelly, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the fact that it's off the list is all right with me. No, I completely agree. When I saw this, I was no, I know Elvis has had a lot of hits. I've grown up with greatest hits albums of Elvis. My mum's a big fan. This is not if it doesn't even make a greatest hits album, what's it doing on a 500 greatest songs? That's I don't know. Most of the time, it's not one I've heard that often because it's not a big, well-renowned hit in my opinion. So I think it's pleasant. I thought you were going to say I listened to it once, I listened to it twice, and then I still can't remember it because it's not memorable to me. It's a cute little ditty, but it's not. There's no crux to it. So no, not one for me.
Brooklyn, do you think that this song's just all right, or do you like this more than us?
No, I'm gonna steal Kelly's line. It's a cute little ditty. I have given Elvis Presley an extremely hard time, and this is one where I'm just it's mid, it's fine. I think of the songs that we're talking about today, this probably has some of the most okay guitar work. I don't know what the proper term is, but like the trill that he does in his voice, I think that's like probably the coolest thing about this song, because I think that can be tough to do. And it's the one thing that kind of stands out about him. But yeah, we're gonna go on a trip with Elvis Presley today, and it's gonna be a very fun ending.
Spoilers ahead, possibly. All right, let's move on to someone who's not an old white guy. Otis Redding with "I've Been Loving You Too Long" at number 111. Brooklyn, I'm gonna have you start us off with this one.
So this is a complete opposite, like the much deserving spot of 111. It's crazy that this got cut, but I also understand it, because I would like knowing what Otis Redding songs made it on the list, like "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay" and
Try a Little Tenderness.
Yeah, "Try a Little Tenderness." Like, this is easily the third best, and it's just like, this is one of the hard cuts. This is where things get really like, the general theme of this list is there's going to be a lot of like just classics that don't really make sense, but this is one of the ones that I'm glad that I discovered it, because it's not one of like the ones that's not one of the Otis Redding songs that you always go back
to. This is one of those Otis Redding songs that I do always go back to. Actually, yes, it's the third best, but it's still Otis Redding at his best. And this is probably like, I was introduced to Otis Redding through Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, but this is the other one that I kind of knew before I did like a little deeper excursion into his work. And if there's one thing that Otis Redding could do so much better than a lot of his peers, it was Pitiful. And he was really able to capture like that blues sadness in this song incredibly well. There's just something in his vocal timbre that is just heart-wrenching when used properly. And I think that this was just such an utterly amazing song. I'm heartbroken that this one's lost. But Kelly, what are your thoughts on "I've Been Loving You Too Long"?
Very much in the same boat. Like, I can't believe this didn't make the list. I think Brooklyn's hit it, though. I think it comes down to an either or between "Try a Little Tenderness" or this one. I think "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay" is very much its own vibe. It's very much a vibe. But with "I've Been Loving You Too Long" and "Try a Little Tenderness," it's very much those a little bit similar in the vocal performance, but that doesn't make it any less astounding. I'm very much the same boat. I love Otis Redding's voice. It's something about that. I don't have the technical terms for it, but that's the big soaring notes he tends to hit, but still in that bluesy way. Like, it's fantastic. So this one is, I'm really sad to lose as well. But yeah, I think it came down to either or.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to one spot just above that at 110. "Brown Eyed Girl" by Van Morrison. Kelly, I'm going to start with you for obvious reasons.
Yeah, being a brown-eyed girl, and being that I've grown up. Van Morrison is an artist that I've grown up with the greatest hits of. Like, my family is the greatest hits family. We grew up in long car trips with Van Morrison, Simon and Garfunkel, and Rumours. I know that's not the greatest hits, but like that one, and Queen. So it feels like the greatest hits. It's like an all killer no filler album, so it is like a greatest hits. Van Morrison in particular is an artist that I feel really we don't talk about nowadays, which sucks. I think it's fallen off the wayside, and he has so many amazing songs, and as someone that goes through different phases as well. Like, when you look up that discography on Spotify, like, he was banging out albums really frequently in the late 60s and 70s. And it's really hard to, I think, what other Van Morrison songs made the list? Because I know a lot got cut, and I can't believe it.
So the only one that made the current list is Into the Mystic.
See, I think also Astral Week.
Well, yes, yeah, Gloria as well. I mean, that's when he was with them. But
Moondance didn't make it, right?
No, it made the 2010s list. We talked about that one 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah. So I think Into the Mystic, Astral Weeks, this one, Moondance, like, there's just so many different like little phases. So that's what
Cleaning Windows.
I think for the whole list on a whole, if you're having artists with multiple songs, they should sort of be representing something a little bit different. There should be nothing that sounds like from the same maybe album or same time period, like, because you look at things like Beatles or like Bowie. Like there's got to be something very distinct about each one. And I think Van Morrison has that, but it's just not ever talked about as much. So for Brown Eyed Girl, this is I guess it would be the one I would be okay losing, even though it's the most popular one, but it is a little bit generic sounding, but it's still really joyful. And I guess in that sense, it reminds me of Sweet Caroline a lot, where it's like there's not a lot of meat and potatoes to it. Sorry.
We don't. No.
Nope.
Brown Eyed Girl, Sweet Caroline.
No.
Brown Eyed Girl.
Brown-Eyed Girl,
I'm sorry, Lucas
Sweet
Steelbuck
Caroline.
and all the Red Sox fans, but yeah.
Sweet Caroline is bad. I'm sorry.
Brown Eyed Girl up here. No, in the same way that there's not a lot of meat and potatoes to it. Like there's not a lot of highs and lows. And it's just that very like, I grew up behind a bar, like literally like me to that fence line. Like that would be my house there behind a bar. So like listening to Brown Eyed Girl every night. So, but it is a crowd pleaser. That's my point. Sorry, that was a really long-winded way of trying to find my words. Brown Eyed Girl's a crowd pleaser. So I can understand why it hasn't made a 500 Stones best list, but there still should be maybe a place for more Van Morrison. Thank you. This is my TED Talk.
Brooklyn, your TED Talk.
Yeah. So I agree with Kelly in that this is a bit generic. It's like the most easy listening of his music. It's the song that introduced me to him. This is a song that I like if I ever play set lists anywhere. It's a song that I always have. This is Wagon Wheel, but not as overplayed. But I agree that there's also just better stuff out there. It's kind of crazy in retrospect that Moondance is below this when you think about it from like a musician perspective. But it's crazy that this got cut and then they're like Kanye West and Daft Punk stronger at 500. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, this is probably the song that introduces most people to Van Morrison. Even though for me it was Moondance. And this, first of all, I think that this song deserves to be on the 500 list because it is just like a genuinely great song. It is Van Morrison's pop song. It is his bubblegum pop song in a sense.
Yeah.
Even though I think that he would beat me with a lead pipe for me saying that. But I'm just hearing him with this Irish brogue going, "What did you just say about my song?" But it is just like a really great song. That guitar lick is instantly memorable. The moment that you start playing, like everybody in the room, or at least 90% of the people in the room, are like, "That's my fucking jam."
Everyone starts shuffling.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to not have a good time with this song. So sad to see it's not on the list.
I guarantee you, though, Tom DeLonge heard the bridge of this, and he's like, "We can do something with this. We can do something with the sha-la-la-la-las. We'll just turn them into na-na-na-na-nas."
Wait, so are we talking about the band Sha-na-na now?
No.
All right, let's move on before I make Brooklyn angry. To number 108, Not Fade Away by Buddy Holly and the Crickets. This is going to be the last time we talk about Buddy Holly and the Crickets on this series. Shut the fuck up, Brooklyn. You go first.
Okay. Actually, fuck. So, okay, that's I need to remember what it sounded like. So I'm glad that this got cut. And it kind of speaks true to what I was saying at the very start of like 500 Stones, where each song kind of represents a certain thing. And then whenever they look at this song, they're like, okay, we have Bo Diddley, we have Boom Boom Boom, we have all like the big blues songs that kind of have space in between. And yeah, this is it. Like the guitar, it's kind of cool. But I definitely understand why it's off.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree, because we're talking like a lot of that 50s rock that was starting to like make the airwaves, and I think there is only so much space in a sense. Did that'll be the day that makes
Yes, that's
it?
on the list. That's actually like in or close to the hundreds.
I think that's a fair representation. That's the one, because then it is of the era where things did sound very similar. Like every song did start to sound just a little bit to the same. So I'm fine with That'll Be the Day. I think that's the one. But it's hard because we're talking like rock history, music history. So it sometimes it can be those like sentimental picks of like, this was a band that was very formative at the time. So yeah, no, just that one.
I think that there's like at least 2 or 3 that you could throw on the official Hot 100, top 500 list.
The Hot 100 in the 50s.
We got Lizzo, and we got Paramore, and then Buddy Holly and the Crickets.
I mean, we did have Kate Bush recently, so you can't be too surprised if that actually did happen. So I like this song. I like this song a lot. It should have never come anywhere near a top 500 list, though. As Brooklyn brought up, when you have Bo Diddley on there, especially since last week we talked about Who Do You Love, which, like, the guitar line in these two songs, not that different, even though they're like just enough that you can kind of get away with it. It's a good song. I like Buddy Holly and the Crickets a lot. But 108, man. Okay, sure. Fine, guys, I guess. However, with 106, The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel, why the hell is this song not on the list anymore? This is easily in my 150. Like, I think that this song is incredible. The harmonies between the two of them are just utterly astonishing. Even, like, for Simon and Garfunkel, they were already like one of the greatest harmonizing duos of all time. This song is just like a linchpin in that. The instrumentation and production are so incredible. That snare drum during the Lila Lies is just so good. They apparently, in order to get that sound, they apparently hit that snare drum inside an open elevator shaft to create that like spacious sound. Yeah, it's just a really cool little tidbit of music history. And you got so many different things. You got like horns and I don't remember what it's actually called. I don't want to call it the thing that it used to be known as, but it's that like that rubber band in the mouth, like kind of instrument.
I think it's called a mouth harp.
A mouth harp, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And the lyricism in this song, oh my god! In the clearing stands a boxer and a fighter by his trade, and he carries the reminders of every like. It's just like a lyrical masterclass of storytelling. What the fuck are we doing? The fuck are we doing having this song no longer on the list? Brooklyn, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I think to kind of play devil's advocate here, I think they looked at this song and they looked at Bridge Over Troubled Water and they went either or.
You can have both.
You can. I'm just saying, like I think that's what they did with this, because I can't think of any other good reason why this should come off here, especially when he got into the last verse and like when you were mentioning like every glove that laid him down or cuts him, and then especially like because the band matches up in that time and it's like cut him, and it just has so much like emphasis on it. I also love the lyrics. This used to be the song that I opened with for every set, because it's just pretty, like the opening lyrics. I'm just a poor boy, though my story seldom told. And then you get to, I think it's, I don't know if it's like an oboe solo or it's like, it could be like a French horn or something. But that
it sounded like a French horn to me.
Yeah. But I think my favorite line in the song is when I'm laying out to my winter clothes. And
wishing I was gone, going home.
Going home to the New York City winters, or something like that. But yeah, it's a beautiful.
Where the New York City winters aren't bleeding me.
Leading me, going home.
Yeah. Kelly, what are your thoughts on The Boxer?
When I saw that this didn't make the list, why? But I think Brooklyn, you might have hit the nail on the head. I think that people made it come down to an either or, but then I also agree it shouldn't have come down to an either or. I think there is space for this as well, because as I was saying, like each thing should do something a little bit different. And what I think this does different is that it is the best example of storytelling that Simon and Garfunkel do. And we've all hit on it. Everyone has had like different lyrics that hits to them, because like mine is like, but I get no offers, just a coming from the halls on 7th Avenue. I think that is just so evocative. That places me on the streets. So I think that there definitely should have been space for this, and I think it's a bit unfound that like it didn't make the list. I love that you brought up the that chorus with the la la la's and then bam. Because I was listening to the other day, I'm like, what does this remind me of? And it's not that this reminds me of something, it's that something else, this predates something, but it reminds me of Creep by Radiohead with I'm a Creep. Like
Oh yeah.
that. And so I'm just like, I haven't been able to separate that now. And it just gives me very similar vibes, actually.
That's really true. Oh wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to listen
Sit
to
on that
Creep
now.
again.
Glass broken.
Ow, 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 ow. Moving on. Let's move on before I get hurt even more to number 105, Living For the City by Stevie Wonder. I'll start because I made a slight error when I sent these guys the playlist. There's two versions. There's the album version and the single version. I love the album version, even though I probably should have sent the single version in our playlist. But this song, it's oh god, this is another one that I'm really disappointed didn't make the official list. 105 may have been a little high, but I still think that it's very deserving of its spot. It's just one of those songs where the structure and the way that it is built and designed is just so tight. Stevie Wonder sounds incredible. I think only like 2 people, and one of them being Stevie Wonder, did the instrumentation, like all of the instruments. Because I especially want to point out the drum work. The drum work in this song is so good. It's just like it's such a unique sounding song. It's got this great funk edge to it, but it does really capture the sound and the idea of the hustle and bustle of living in a city, but in a way that it's just incredibly hard. I think that this is just like a really well-crafted song, very deserving of being on the list. Maybe not 105, but on the list. Brooklyn, what about you?
I'm gonna hide here for a little bit. I think this is actually a miss from Stevie. And here's why. I think that the instrumentation is great. I think the musical interlude is really good. I think like it's super influential. Excuse me. Like Silk Sonic, I think digs the hell out of this song and all the different little key changes that it has. The problem that I have with it is that it kind of just stays at a 10 emotion wise and doesn't really like drop down. And I think that's what I like about Stevie is that he has a little bit of ebb and flow. I think that when you were listening to the song, like you have Stevie and he's this very high range. You have the backing vocals, which are very kind of like low. But it almost needs like an electric organ like in the middle just to kind of like balance it out. But there's just too much. There needs to be some balance, but at the same time, there also needs to be like more diversity, I guess, in emotion.
All right, Kelly. Someone's getting island time today. What are your thoughts on this?
This is one I'm definitely sad to see drop off the list. This is one of my preferred Stevie Wonder songs. I like my Stevie Wonder with something really to say. I don't tend to really enjoy the poppier love songs. Like I Just Called to Say I Love You. That's got nothing for me. But Living for the City. Okay, so yes, you did send me the album version, and I am definitely a basic bitch. I don't like long songs. So when it's like over 7 minutes, I don't like it. I cut off at 3. So I'm pretty sure like I've had the album, the single release version at like it'd be like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, something like
it's
that.
About 3:30 to 4, yeah.
Yeah, it just condenses it down and makes it more palatable for me. So yes, I like greatest hits and I like single versions. Like just, I can't help it. But this has a point of view, and I love that, and it's an important point of view, and it's one we don't always get. And I think it was important to have it when it was released as well. Like it is saying something that wasn't so prolific at the time as like the hardships of what people were going through in the city, and definitely. So I think it's important to keep that. But other than that, it's just got that, like, it gets me from the opening groove. It's that dun, dun, and makes you like, it gives you vibing cat. Like it makes me do that head. So definitely. Sorry. Yeah, so I think this is one I would have liked to see in the list, but I do agree 105 is higher. I think somewhere in the 400s would be really good.
Okay. I would probably say the 300s, but I think that we're close enough in our thought process there.
It's going to get bumped for like Superstition and just some of the other bigger hits.
Right, exactly. Speaking of big hits, let's move on to number 104, Hot Stuff by Donna Summer. Brooklyn, how about let's start with you?
So when I first think of this song, I think of a great TV show in the 90s on ABC Family called Boy Meets World. It was about a man, Corey Matthews, struggling through school while his neighbor / principal, Mr. Feeney, guides him through the ways of adulthood. But one of the great moments in the show is that I think it's Corey, Mr. Feeney, Corey's dad, and I think Eric. They're all singing the song at a bar, and it's just it's great. I love this. I love the bass line in this. I think the guitar in this really is like aggressive, but in a good way. Donna Summer has some fucking bops. This Bad Girl. Oh my God. What's the other one? What was that?
Last Dance. That's my favorite.
Last Dance. There's another one.
I Need Love.
I Need Love. I Need Love is the other one. Very sad that this got off, and I'll give the same argument for Brown Eyed Girl. This could very well have been in like the low 400s to kind of round out the list.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on this one?
Didn't know Boy Meets World was going to come up today, and didn't think Hot Stuff was the one that was going to do it. That doesn't look new to me.
Not exactly. Okay.
It's actually really funny. This song reminds me of a TV show as well. Like our first season of Australian Idol, one of the female finalists like had a bit of a breakout moment to this one, and she'd sing it on stage and like would do like hip hop, and like it was a bit risque, but like still in a family friendly way. So like that's what it reminds me of. But that's what it ties me back to, is in the sense like when it starts, I'm like, oh yeah, why don't I listen to this more? I'm like, it starts, it's groove and it's great. It gets repetitive. It repeats itself straight away at the halfway mark. So like by halfway in the point, I'm just like, next. Like I've had my moment with Hot Stuff. So I'm fine with it leaving the list, but I think there's more room for disco. Like there should always be room for disco. I think it's an underappreciated genre at the time. Like it's one that we mock now, but I want more ABBA. I want more Donna Summer. I want more just like one hit wonders even of disco songs. I think it was important and it deserves more recognition on the list.
Yeah, 100%. It's 5 minutes, 13 seconds.
It's true.
And I kind of feel the length, unfortunately, because that groove and that riff, iconic. Love that stuff. And Donna Summer sounds great on this. This is exactly. It does serve exactly what it's designed for. It's designed for going out to the club, dancing, possibly getting really close with someone as you're dancing, probably a little too close. Because you're looking for that one specific thing. You're looking for hot stuff, baby.
Wait, wasn't Hot Stuff just like a fresh batch of biscuits? Like I need hot stuff. I need biscuits.
Tonight specifically.
Yeah, because it's 2 a.m. You're drunk. There are still some places open. You got fresh batch of hot fries.
Don't underestimate the power of munchies, good sir.
I'm not Eat something, Brooklyn. Eat something. The last couple episodes you've brought up like fresh food. Yeah, so I think deserving of a spot, but in like the 450 to 500 area. Just for like the representation and like because it is a strong song, just a little too long is all. Let's move on to one spot above that, giving us complete whiplash. Bebop Alula by Gene Vincent and his Blue Caps. I'm gonna have Kelly start us off with
Yep, that's fine. I'll get it out of the way. I don't like the song. I had it on. I talked previously that they did the release of the previous list to the 2010s list, the 500 greatest songs. Like they did the albums of it, so I had that on my iPod. And anytime this come on, it would like shock the shit out of me because it's like, well, beat. I'm like, nope, nope, don't like it. Next, it's just not one for me. Like it's not of that. We talked about like early what is termed rock and roll, like in that very boppy rock and roll. I think this is just a bit of a generic miss one. I would put Runaway, I would put any other Buddy Holly and the Cricket song over it. Like it's just not one that stands out to me. I think there's better examples of the genre on there. So no.
This is probably gonna come as no surprise to some people, but I kind of really like this one. I hold on, Brooklyn, before you say anything.
Wow.
Before you say anything, it should not be on this list. I enjoy the vibe. I enjoy the vibe that this song has. It's got a little bit of an edginess to it, but it's still got that kind of cool, like smoky atmosphere kind of like sound to it. And Gene Vincent, you know what? He's a strong singer. He's a talented singer. But it's also one that I'm kind of like, I don't know what this song presents to us that a lot of other songs that were below it, a lot of songs, considering it's 103, I don't understand what this song serves more than a lot of the other ones that we have.
What's it representing? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Other than the fact that it's like the 50s and 60s. Like, that's it. That's it. It's on the list because, let's be honest, there was a bunch of really old voters this time. So no knock against the song itself. I really like the song. I just did not need to be on this list. Brooklyn. This, okay. The anticipation.
That was timing.
Hey mom, do we have Buddy Holly? No. Elvis Presley? No. Chuck Berry? No. Well, who the fuck do we have? This.
Who do we have, Brooklyn?
We have this Gene Vincent guy.
Wow.
He really likes Elvis Presley. And it's just one note. It's the same lick over and over again. It's fucking bad. Like, no surprise. This shouldn't be 103. This shouldn't be 1003. This is when you are hacking from the guy who already stole from black people. This is not the song that should be honored.
I need medical.
That was a roller coaster. Okay.
All right, let's move on to something with a little bit more edge. Number 102, Voodoo Child by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And once again, what the fuck is this song not doing on the list? How the fuck did this get eliminated? Because this is probably my number. This might be my. Oh God, this might actually be my number one Jimi Hendrix song. It kind of fights with All Along the Watchtower. But man, the guitar in this just goes so fucking hard. And it's incredible. This song is just like the personification of just like wild. It's just like this crazy, wild, raucous energy. And it's got so much swagger to it. It's just like the amount of people who throw out songs that are trying to, like, you know, assert themselves and throw their weight around and just like show off how great they are. They don't hold a fucking candle compared to Voodoo Child. God, I like Lenny Kravitz, but Lenny Kravitz wishes he could have written this kind of a fucking song. He's never even come goddamn close. Brooklyn, what are your thoughts on Voodoo Child?
So I think when we did rock trios, I think this is the song that I actually picked for the Jimi Hendrix Experience. It's basically what's the album for this one called? It is Electric Ladyland. So it's big into this one and then just like the Jimi Hendrix Experience album. Two of the best albums. I don't know what the fuck 60s rock trios were doing, but they were just hitting everything. I love the drums in this. The bass in this is great. The build-up in Voodoo Child. This is used really great in WandaVision. And I think it's in episode 3 or 4. But it's just like I've talked so much about the backing band and just how important they were. And I think this is another one where they just kind of went either or, because you had like I think it was Little Wing. You had All Along the Watchtower, Purple Haze. I think Purple Haze captures the guitar. The Little Wing captures the backing band, and I think All Along the Watchtower is just a combination. It's like the pop version of Jimmy. But this is also it's a great song. I wish that there was an alternate universe where Jimi Hendrix was playing live today, or not even today, like just at some point. And he's like, oh, hey, Stevie Ray Vaughan, you want to come join me on this song? Because this is very much a Stevie Ray Vaughan song.
This song birthed Stevie Ray Vaughan. Let's be honest. Kelly, what are your thoughts on Voodoo Child?
Yeah, very much in the same vein. Like, Bar, when you said, like, it fights for my top spot with All Along the Watchtower, I'm like, that's exactly what happened. And then Brooklyn said the exact same thing. Like, it came down to a bit of an either or. If I'm looking at the list, I think that's what's happened. It's still an amazing song, yes, but I think Jimi Hendrix has a very distinct style, distinct sound. So I think it was a little bit maybe harder to differentiate eras and stuff, whether that's fair or not. But I think people just sort of maybe went like, we need 2 or 3 Jimi Hendrix songs, and these are the ones. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Even though all the other songs that are on the official list also kind of slap. All right, let's move on to number 101, just missing the top 100. You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Rolling Stones. Kelly, I love what I'm seeing so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this in the box, I was like, really? What is pushing this off? Because when, like, it's
tumbling dice, apparently.
Like,
damn it, so much.
I sunk your battleship.
But this one, I think this is just an absolute classic, undisputable. I don't know how you would dispute kicking this off, because this is like one of the best Rolling Stones songs, in my opinion. It's got the Oh, yes, no.
No. Me? No.
Okay. No. Yes, you just making the eyes.
Oh, okay. Well, because I had a joke in mind, but just go on.
Okay, please. I'm like, am I alone here? Am I alone? And this is not the best Rolling Stones song? Because and hear me saying like, you can't deny it, and I'm like, I hope not.
Well, Kelly, look, guess what? Sometimes you can't always get what you want.
Yes. Oh, God damn it.
Boo! Get off the stage.
Okay. Hook. I think the opening choir is used well and is just so distinct. I think Mick Jagger's vocals on it, I think the lyricism of it's great. It's a long song, but it's one that I'm going to like handle. I think that's fair. The chorus is just still one of the most beautiful that I've heard. It's one of the most poetic. I love any time it's used in a movie or TV show. Like, I remember this from like a House episode. I'm like, that was used well, like very much. So I think this song like definitely should have made the list. Don't know why it was bumped off.
To me, this is the second greatest song that the Rolling Stones ever made. I think Gimme Shelter is number 1, but then this is like a real close second. I still say that Let It Bleed is the best album that the Rolling Stones ever made. And you're right. There's something just about the way that this song is designed. I can't quite place what it is about the structure. It almost has like this gospel-esque kind of quality to it that I think really works well with the Stones sound. Mick Jagger, I think this might be the best that Mick Jagger has sounded on any of the Rolling Stones songs.
That's the most pure vocal he gives.
Yeah. It's just oozing with emotion. And it's got this great quality. It's just like it's never aged. It sounds like it could have been made in literally any era. Um, yeah, I'm with you, Kelly. I don't know what the hell we're doing that this song didn't even crack the current one, but we still have fucking Tumbling Dice in the top 100. Brooklyn.
Yeah, I would also put this as the second greatest Rolling Stones song. Number one, of course, being "Miss You." We have to remember though that "Give Me Shelter" is a great Mary Clayton song. The best part about that song is not the Rolling Stones. But yeah, I was realizing it in the this afternoon, and I was like, man, this is actually like a very soothing, like resolving kind of song. Like if somebody was to say to you like, this is the Rolling Stones version of "Let It Be," and it's like, you kind of have a point. Especially when it's like you can't always get what you want, but when you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. And there's just something very therapeutic about it. And it's so weird too, because when you listen to this on Spotify and you have like the animated kind of like album thing in the background, it's just a kaleidoscope thing, and it doesn't really make sense. And it's like what is this doing here? But I love it. It's like it's very hippie, and yeah, very sad that this got taken off for Tumbling Dice to stay, and other Wild Horses stayed. That's fine. Like Wild Horses, I think deserves to be on there. You're muted.
I was agreeing with you. I was saying, yeah, that's fine. Wild Horses should stay. That one's fine. But as alluded to earlier, thank you, Mr. Producer Man. This is the last Rolling Stones song that we will be talking about for this section of the list, because we've talked about them a lot. Let's move on to number 97. Someone we've also talked about a lot. Also going to be the last time they appear. Roll Over Beethoven by Chuck Berry.
Can you just preface me? What else have we talked about?
On like the current list or like this?
Both.
So on the current list, Maybelline and Johnny B. Good are there. Okay. And in this section, we've talked about like Sweet Little 16. There's like some other one on the official list, and I can't remember what it is. But we talked about him. Yeah, I want to say that this is like the 7th or 8th time we've talked about him in both series combined. Yes,
it's a lot for very similar sounding songs again.
Rock and Roll Music was talked about on the last episode.
Yes, it was. Kelly, thank you so much.
That's why I asked, because sometimes I do have trouble differentiating it. I know it when I'm listening to it, but it's actually funny. Some of the ones I think that are most distinct, like No Particular Place to Go, or Pulp Fiction. What is the actual name of that song?
I don't
remember. It's a teenage wedding, and they're all close. No.
The one during the dance-off.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
That one. Those are the two more distinct sounding ones. Everything that you just list, I could not probably pick out except that and Johnny B. Good. Johnny B. And like, let's talk about Back to the Future for a second. Like, that's Back to the Future and Pulp Fiction propelling some good Chuck Berry songs. But yeah, sorry, I'm just going to interject and I'm going to go first. No, that is my opinion. That's my opinion.
Kelly, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've said this literally every single time he comes up on any episode. Wow, that sure is a Chuck Berry song.
I still like it. I still enjoy it. But I don't need the same song 10 times on the list, 10 different ways.
Yeah. I will say that this, out of like all of the songs that we've talked about, this is probably in the upper half. Because there's something about this one that I really do like a whole lot. It's like just unique enough, even though it's still that Chuck Berry sound. It's a Chuck Berry song. You're gonna have a good time with it no matter what. Brooklyn.
I will agree with you guys in that this is just another Chuck Berry kind of like sandwich. Has that typical kind of rock riff to it that everybody kind of liked hearing. But I kind of want to go to the limb here and say that this is one of the earliest like punk songs. In that it's like roll over Beethoven, and like just I was hoping to find something in the lyrics that kind of like alluded to that. But when you even go to the opening verse, it's like, well, I'm gonna write a letter and I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna mail it to my local DJ. It's a jumping little record. I want my jockey to play Roll Over Beethoven. I gotta hear it again today. So I think it's just kind of talking about like move over all of these classical people, like the new wave is kind of coming in. There's another song that we're going to talk about a little later that kind of does the same thing. But I think of the Chuck Berry songs that all sound the same, this is in like the S to A tier of like the best.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. A at minimum. Yeah. Let's move on to another classic though. Blue Suede Shoes by Carl Perkins. Brooklyn, I'm gonna have you start us off with this one.
So I thought this was an Elvis Presley song. So when
Nope.
I saw Carl Perkins, I was like, oh, Elvis Presley stole from another person. And it's
Kind
just
of,
like-
yeah. They
Yeah,
work for the
just
same record
like-
company.
I just want to add this to the folder of 50s rock songs that we're talking about today. And it's just have the same kind of bluesy riff. I don't have anything to add. 95, sure. But I need more time, I guess. Like, I would need to be that old man in the corner being like, Blue Suede Shoes is one of the greatest fucking songs ever.
Let me tell you something, Brooklyn. Blue Suede Shoes is one of the greatest songs ever made. I think I was introduced to this song through the Elvis one, but I know that the Elvis one is a cover. They both worked for Sun Records, and they this song was released like really close to each other, actually. I like the Elvis one. It's got a good energy to it. This is easily the better of the two, though, because there's something about Carl Perkins's version of this song that I don't know what it is. But for a good example of what I'm trying to allude to, in the Elvis version, the one for the money part, it's just it goes. It's real quick. It's like 1 for the money, 2 for the show. Whereas this one, it takes a beat. It takes a rest in between all of those, and it builds up the anticipation for what's about to happen. And I think that just the way that Carl Perkins delivers this song, it's got so much bounce and rhythm and groove and just like a solid foundation. 95 maybe a little high
Yeah.
for me. But if it was still on the list in general, I'd be happy with that being there. It's a solid song. It's a great solid song. But Kelly, what are your thoughts on the Carl Perkins version of this?
I'm sitting right down the middle of you guys because, like, on the one hand, like, I very much agree with you. I was introduced to the Elvis version first, and this is like one of the first times of learning about covers, like just how prolific covers were. Because, like, when you're a kid, you think like everything's new. Like, I got down and thought Atomic Kittens, The Tide Is High was the T. And it wasn't like that was my first rude awakening. But then there's this one. Not to be woke, but I think it is important to keep recognizing the original artists, especially like in the music industry history. So in for that sense, I really do wish that this was still making the list. But then Brooklyn's like, is this one that I would argue is the 500 best? I'm like, that's hard. But then I look at it the other hand, I'm like, but then other shit made the list. That's just shit. And like this has some historical importance to me. I think it's still a really good song. And I think it is a crowd pleaser. Like, but you just started like with 1 for the money for the show. Like that gets me jazzed. Like we used to sing this song like in primary school and stuff. Like I think it's a family favorite, and I do think it should make the list.
All right. Well, let's talk about something that was a little fresher at the time, at least. Norwegian Wood, This Burn Has Flown by the Beatles. I'm going to have Kelly start us off with this one.
This one hurt that it doesn't make it. I know that the whole list just can't be Beatles, but I think you had Norwegian Wood in your top 10 Beatles.
I might have. I can't recall.
Yeah, when you guys did the Beatles redo, like I know that this
one of us did.
Yeah, this was making the list because this makes my list easy. And this is very indicative of what I was saying in that there's different eras for different artists. And I think you definitely get introduced to Beatles in the very She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand, that very pop way. And then you might hit like the later half of the back catalogue and hit like the Let It Be's and like the Rooftop Concert sort of era. But then there's this very experimental phase in the middle that I think sometimes you don't hit until you're like maybe searching for music when you're like doing your musical exploration of taste. Like I know it wasn't one that I was introduced to by my parents. Like this one's like, well, actually I was introduced to this song by my parents, but like that album in particular, I was introduced to the song because my dad plays it on piano. And these are just some absolutely beautiful notes. And I started playing violin, and he's like, "This is the one we're going to play." And he would do all the accompaniment, and I would do all the melody on violin. And it's so like, this is just one that's a very, very soft spot in my heart. And I think it's just got a beautiful, soft melody. And I think that opening lyric is amazing. I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me. I think that is so romantic in a weird way. I like my romance songs like a little bit offbeat. I don't like generic Ed Sheeran perfect songs. That song means nothing to me. But I want something with like, I melt with you, or just something like a little bit off, like something like a little bit off kilter. And I think that that opening lyric has it. And this, then you get the storytelling of this song. Like, it really puts me in, like, I can hear it gives me visions of like what is happening in the song. So like, I absolutely love this one. And it's sitar, isn't it? It's sitar. Yeah. That's the instrumentation. Beautiful, just an absolutely beautiful melding of instruments and songs. Like, I'm really sad this one got kicked off.
Yeah, I'm sad this one got kicked off too. I think that this is arguably some of the best melodies that the Beatles have ever made. Just Rubber Soul in general, maybe some of the best melodies that the Beatles have ever made. It's arguably my favorite Beatles album. It's like between that and Revolver. And I think that, first of all, for this being a song that's essentially about a one-night stand, not very traditional around that time. Definitely a little bit of envelope pushing. But John just sounds incredible on this song because it genuinely does sound like he's reminiscing about it. It's not like he's just like telling you a story about it. He's like genuinely reflecting.
This happened. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds lived in. It's sad to see this one go. I'd probably throw it on the list somewhere. I just don't know exactly where, because I think there's a handful of other Beatles songs I'd put on before this. But
okay, we did our episode like months and months ago. I'm still salty that Penny Lane's on this. I would sub this out for Penny Lane any goddamn day.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So I think I had this on there. This is definitely my favorite off of Rubber Soul. And I will echo the statements that Andrew made. Rubber Soul is a fucking beautiful, album with just a lot of like interesting stuff. This is the perfect song for intermediate guitar players. Like, you know your Wagon Wheels, you know your If I Had $1 Million, you know your Brown Eyed Girls. Then it's like, I want to branch out a little bit. It's like, all right, we're going to put you in drop D, and we're going to play like one of the best licks ever. I've caught myself playing this for like half an hour straight. There's like a really funky chord in the pre-chorus that when you get into like music theory, it's kind of like, there's some like augmentation. It's a really fancy word, but it's basically like how you stay in that same root key, but you're changing the shape of the structure of the chord. It's really cool. The sitar on this is great. It's just very peaceful. I think whenever I was talking with Luca about this many moons ago, this was actually supposed to be like the closest like Bob Dylan song that they ever did. It was kind of written in that vein. So
I can see that because I know that from my friend who's like a giant Bob Dylan fan. There was a period of time where like the two of them, like the Beatles and Bob Dylan, like met and like just like talked about music and inspired each other. So I can definitely see how that would be the case. And with that, the Beatles are now done. We're done talking about the Beatles on this series. So let's move on to number 78 previously on the list. We're getting into the thick of it now.
High numbers, yeah.
Yeah. Number 78, I Got You, I Feel Good by James Brown. I'm gonna start us off this time. Because this is the song that introduced me to James Brown. I cannot tell you how many times a middle school aged Andrew Barr was sitting on the bus going to school with his CD player.
His Discman?
A Discman, yes. Playing this song on repeat and sitting in his seat with no seatbelt on it because school buses were safe back then. just going to himself. Yeah, this is definitely a song that I think if my middle school had a talent show, I probably would have done terribly, awfully. But the groove in this, the Famous Flames on this song, his band are just so fucking tight on this song. Honestly, I'd argue that this is more their song than James Brown's song, even though he is going full James Brown on this, and it's awesome. Yeah, but with that being said, can I understand how it got cut from the list? Sort of. Compared to some of the other James Brown songs that we've talked about, I guess I can sort of see how this one missed the list. It would possibly make my top 500. I'm not sure though. Brooklyn, what about you?
I think if we're talking about the greatest opening verses ever, absolutely, this needs to be in the top 100 for sure. After that, it's kind of repetitive. Excuse me, but yeah, I think better songs of his made the list. Like I'm Black and I'm Proud, Get Up. I feel like a Sex Machine. But you're right though, the Famous Flames. There is just the right amount of like sleaziness or almost like an offbeat. Like they come in like half a beat late, and I just like that kind of like that like laziness to kind of like catch up to it. And I think it just gives it the right kind of vibe.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on this one?
I like this song a lot. It's fun when it comes on. I agree. I can understand why it's got cut because maybe it just doesn't have much to say. I think it really is about music. I think that like you can play that for anyone and they know it. And it's being like used, like I remember this being like in insurance ads and shit like that. Like, it is one of those ones that get sampled a lot. And for good reason. It is really good music, but maybe just lyrically doesn't have something to say. But the vocals are good, and I like the sound of it. Does it have to make a 500 list? Possibly not, but I still like it.
All right. Well, let's move on to look, another Elvis Presley song. Mystery Train. Another one. Mystery Train by Elvis Presley. Kelly, what are your thoughts on this Elvis Presley song compared to the other?
I'm having deja vu because it did not make any greatest hits albums that was in my house, and we've had at least 3 different Elvis greatest hits albums. So I could not tell you how this song goes off the top of my head at all. At least that's all right. Like can get stuck in my head. This I had no idea how this goes. This man could be walking down the street and like I don't understand. I'm sorry. No, pass. Next person.
I'll go with this one because between the two songs that we've talked about on this episode, at least for the Elvis Presley songs, this one's clearly the better one to me. This is one's got the better groove, the better rhythm. It's the one that's trying to sound like Johnny Cash. This is to quote Brooklyn. Hey mom, do we have any Johnny Cash at home? Do we have like Folsom Prison Blues or something like that? No, but we do have Mystery Train by Elvis Presley. This one, I do still really like this one a lot, though. Especially his voice, because his train arrived 15 coaches long. It should, for me personally, that sticks into my head real quickly. 77? No. When we have the boxer at 106, no. Get out of here. Go on, Brooklyn.
I can't believe that I'm going to have like one of the most positive things to say about this song. I agree that it is just generic 50s rock. I do like the groove. I don't quite understand the comparison between this and Folsom Prison Blues. I think Folsom Prison Blues tells a 1,000 times better of a story. Like I don't get the story in this at all. But if there was ever a time where an old man in a corner is like, listen, this song was a fucking bop and a half when he played this live. And it's like, all right, if I hear this live, I probably have a different interpretation of it. But a studio version, just fair. I agree. 77 is way too fucking high considering everything else we've talked about so far.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about Elvis again. Let's move on, though, to number 72. Hey, look, another band that we talk about all the time. California Girls by the Beach Boys. And I mean, I like this one a lot. it's hard not to because there is such an ease that this song has that's utterly infectious. The melody's sticky, and Mike Love, as much as I don't kind of want to give him any kind of credit as a human being, Mike Love sounds really good on this. Like it works. It's early Beach Boys, which is like a lot of them kind of sounded like this, but this is the one I think that Brian Wilson started to have a little bit more influence in, because it starts to have that kind of production where it starts to get just a wee bit more experimental. So like if this is another one that if it was floating in the 400 range somewhere, I'd be totally cool with this because I think while it may not make my 500 list, I think it's fair to say that it deserves a spot on the list. Kelly,
Because
what
why?
about what's that?
Why does it deserve a spot? Just
I think that just from a structural sound standpoint, and especially that chorus, I think it's such a well constructed but still instantly memorable song. Like you kind of realize what song it is right away when it starts playing.
okay.
That's what I would argue.
I'd put 10 other Beach Boys songs ahead of this on the list. I think this is like early days, and then I think it just got so much better with, yeah, I guess I just prefer the boppy ones. Like this is maybe just a bit too mellow for me. Like I prefer I Get Around. I love Good Vibrations. God Only Knows would be my favorite. Like I could keep going on and on before I reach California Girls. Like I just think it's a bit fluffy. There's nothing to it. That's my opinion.
Fair. Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think this is in my top 10 of Beach Boys. Excuse me, definitely not top 500. But I think I do agree that this has a lot of Brian Wilson kind of impressionism or like his kind of feel on it. What I will say though is that I think Van Halen might have like just kind of tweaked some of the like the really good things about it. I really like this like the I don't know if it's like a xylophone or if it's like just a certain setting on the keys, but I like the edginess that David Lee Roth kind of gives to it because you guys are right, like this is early Beach Boys, but they're not quite in tune. Not all the gears are fully there.
Hard disagree. Hard disagree. I do not like the Van Halen version of this song in the slightest.
Really?
It is overproduced. It's too
cheesy?
cheeky.
Yeah.
They're like there's too much of a wink, a nudge, and a smirk.
It's almost like you're listening to a song that was made in the 1980s.
So was Jump. All right, let's move on. And yes, we have now one of the Beach Boy songs as well. It's about time too.
It's about damn time.
It's about to fucking hell. All right, let's move on to number 65, "Sunshine of Your Love" by Cream. Brooklyn, you and I had a good time talking about Cream last time. Why don't you start this time?
What a fucking bop! I adore the song. One of Eric Clapton's greatest licks. And then like we talk about opening lyrics, it's Getting Near Dawn. Ginger Baker has incredible drum work on there. I love the 60s kind of jazz influence where it's like the floor tom, the ride cymbal, and like just a little bit of snare. I think the movie that I go back to whenever I hear the song is School of Rock, and I think it's whenever they're like loading up the van, getting ready to go to Battle of the Bands. I just love the kind of like it's like this is probably one of the earliest versions of stoner rock. Yeah, and I do I think this stays on the list? I think it should. 65. Fuck, I hate coughing. 65 is way too high. But I think like 200 to 250 might be fair. I think because what was it? White Tower? No.
White Room.
White Room. You're muted, bud.
Well, no wonder.
But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Great song on Guitar Hero 3.
I was gonna bring that up. God damn it!
So, Kelly, you now have to steal a joke from Andrew, and the cycle has been completed.
Well, I'm gonna let you go next. Then.
Yeah. I 100% echo everything you said. Actually, I think you summed it up brilliantly. I think this is so representative of a music genre. I was really surprised to see this off the list, actually, because when you think like classic rock, I think this one that definitely comes up there. And I love to see it in School of Rock because they did hit nearly predominantly every classic rock song in that movie. So I think this definitely deserves place on the list. I was a little surprised to see it because I do think, like, for a Rolling Stone list, like, this is what I would expect to see. Similar to when I saw like Bo Diddley drop off so much last time I was here, I was like, whoa. So to see it drop from 65 all the way off, I was quite surprised. I agree. I think it should live in like somewhere around the 200s, 250, just for the history of it and how, defining of a genre it was. And it is one of the few songs on Guitar Hero 3 on hard that I can play because it doesn't fuck up my pinky finger. There's not a lot of orange in it, so I like this one.
That fucking orange button was the
Orange
devil.
Bulls on Parade or
worst
GTFO.
So yeah, no, I'm in lockstep with you guys. This would probably be in like the 200 range, maybe even the 150 range for me. Because just like the atmosphere that this song creates, like this, yeah, it's very psychedelic, but it's and lyrically it's very vivid, but there's also like a strange like gothicness to it almost. And I can't remember the name of the guy that wrote the lyrics, but he was like an actual like poet. Man, he writes some of the most vivid imagery when it comes to like lyrics. Like just the title alone, "The Sunshine of Your Love," is such a beautifully phrased way of putting that. So God, what the hell are we doing? These last couple songs.
I love that you bring up that poetry because then it's just sort of mixed with that rawness of like, "I'll be with you, darling, soon," and like you can hear that coming through with like the vocals. So yeah, it's definitely like hits that good balance between that psychedelic, vivid imagery, but like still a little bit grounded. There's something just really raw and a little bit dirty about it sometimes that I really like as well. So yeah, wish this one could have stayed.
All right, well, let's move on to 2 spots above this at number 63. For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield.
My boy. Look what they done to my boy.
I'm going to have Kelly go first on this one.
Okay. This is one of my mum's all-time favorite songs. I'm going to go on a limb, and when she watches this back, she'll either tell me I'm right or wrong, but I think it is one of my mum's all-time favorite songs because we had the Forrest Gump 2 Disc Deluxe soundtrack.
Let's go!
So I think this was a staple in every 90s household. You must have this soundtrack. We definitely had it. We played the shit out of it. I think this was the first is the blue disc, track 6, somewhere around there, I reckon. Definitely, it's that very hippie, peace, love, like very that all moments. And it isn't until like you start getting a little bit older and sort of understanding like what the lyrics are actually about. Because when I was listening to it as a child, like it just had like, "Stop, children, what's that sound?" Like it just had like a really good like little hook and like sounded really fun and boppy. And then when you really listen to it, it's like, oh, that's serious. Like, but I think this is important. I think this is an important song, and I think it definitely should have made the list. This has something to say. This has a message, and yeah, I'm really sad to see it to drop off from 63. I think this is going to be my recurring theme from like this way down to drop so far, just blanket off the list. Really surprising, and it probably shows you like that turn of the people who are now voting like now.
I don't like it. Brooklyn.
I'm in the same camp as Miss Meehan. I think this is in not only the top 500, but should probably be in the top 50. This has some really cool lyricism. The musicianship in it is great. I think my favorite line in it is "Paranoia strikes deep, into your life it will creep. It stops when you're always afraid." But it has one of my favorite things that rock music can do, and I'm going to use a very hipster word or very hipster words. It has a monochromatic dissension, and what that is. If you're familiar with the song "All My Life" by the Beatles, or if you're familiar with like "I'll Follow You Into the Dark" by Death Cab for Cutie, it's basically whenever because like so the chords it goes E, D, A, and then A minor, but it starts on the D. So you go from a D to a C sharp in the A, and then you have the C in the A minor, and then it has that nice kind of like gradient kind of descent. All My Life does a similar thing, and when songs can do it right, and it's so effective. There's such a peacefulness to this, considering it is basically a protest song. But it's also like a very early Neil Young song, so that also isn't surprising. But yeah, why is this off the list? Why did this get cut so that a 12-string guitar cover could stay? What choices are we making, Rolling Stones? Why?
What are we doing? This is in my top 10 of all time.
Whoa.
I
Wow.
genuinely think that there is no song from the 60s or 50s that has aged better than this song, because there is so many things covered in the lyrics that are completely relevant to today.
Yeah.
Especially the line of the one verse about like the authorities. Like, so much of what is covered in this song is still 100% relevant to this day.
Okay.
And first of all, I think it's Graham Nash. I can't remember for certain who's the lead vocalist here.
That
But
sounds
he sounds amazing on this. His control is so good. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Graham Nash. But his just like his delivery is so great. It's got this weight to it. There's like a somberness. And I think that this song was inspired when I think it was the Whiskey A Go Go Club was raided.
Ooh.
Yeah. And just like to be able to put all of your thoughts into a song like this that I want to say is maybe 3.5 minutes.
Mm.
Honestly, I think it's magnificent. Probably in my top 10 of all time. Not gonna lie. So I'm real mad. I'm real
That's something
mad.
that's something I a little bit miss about nowadays, is like when music really did have something to say and was able to capture what was happening in a time and place and wasn't just generic studio pop. So nothing wrong with that, but like you got to have those opposing opinions as well, and people actually using their music to express a message. So,
Yeah.
Like another great Neil Young song, Ohio. That's definitely a great song. We got Aaron to freeze.
I'm just gonna move on. Number 61. Something a little less something a little less serious. A whole lot of shaking going on by Jerry Lee Lewis. You know what? Fine. It's really good. I like it a lot. It's fun. It's boppy. It's got a good energy to it. I mean, Jerry Lee Lewis was like the Fireball for a reason. It's got a lot of that like Tennessee kind of debauchery. It's a fun good time. 61? No. Kelly, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I feel like all I've done is ragged on like 50s, 60s rock and roll, but that's one of those music sounds I really do love. It's definitely what I've grown up with my mum very much, but I've just always hit ones that are just better than what we've just talked about today. So like, I think Rock Around the Clock is the better version of this. Like, you know what I mean? So I've just heard better 50s rock and roll than just what we've talked about today. So I don't mind that this one's off. Great Balls of Fire is going to be the Jerry Lee Lewis songs that would make it. I'm just fine with that. Like, they just, not every song needed to make the list. When I asked you, I'm like, what kind of stuff was cut? It was a lot of this. And some things I'm a bit sad about, but other things I'm just like, no, that's okay. We can move on and represent different genres than having the same song 10 times. So yeah.
And Brooklyn, what are your thoughts on this?
So first of all, 61, extremely high. How it even made the list, I think, is kind of crazy. To steal a phrase from Jay Burns, the song is mid, but I will take you into a glimpse of when the song was being made. So Jerry Lee Lewis, you've made Great Balls of Fire. It is an incredible song. Yeah. All right. Can you play that same riff, like in the same key and everything? Yeah. Okay. Slow it down a little bit. All right. Now just throw some like generic lyrics in there, like about a dancing. Whole lot of thing going on. Okay. And then Jerry Lewis keeps playing it. And he's like, I kind of want the same energy as Great Balls of Fire. Can I do that? Not yet. Now? Okay, fine. Now. It's taking all the same ideas from Great Balls of Fire, but just making it like a dance song.
Remix.
I honestly couldn't have put it better myself. And to correct something I said in the last song before we move on, it wasn't Graham Nash, it was Stephen Stills. Stephen Stills was the lead singer for Buffalo Springfield. Yeah, but whole lot of shaking going on. It's fun. Great Balls of Fire remix. So. All right, 59. The Times They Are Changing by Bob Dylan. You know what, Brooklyn? We've gone on a journey with Bob, with good old Robert D. What are your thoughts on The Times They Are Changing?
This is one of my favorite Bob Dylan songs ever, but not by Bob Dylan. The Bob Dylan version is very basic and very like generic. The guitar is super straightforward. Like a beginner could, like this is a song you teach beginners because it's just G, E minor, C, and G, and I think it throws in a D. This song, I like of songs that I wish could be covered more. This is one of them. There's a version in particular that I want people to listen to for their homework tonight. We're in September, so we should be giving out homework now. The other favorites do a really nice version of this. It's like a Celtic folk kind of version. It's very sweet, and it kind of captures some of the lyrics in it really well. I also really like the lyrics in this. Probably my favorite line is, I think it's the opening of the second verse. Come writers and critics to prophesize with your pen. And it's just like, he knows that like people are already going to be like breaking down the song lyric for lyric and what it's trying to say. And it's like, cool, no matter what you do, like the times are going to change. Cause I think then like we were having all of that, like 60s, 50s rockabilly where everything was sounding the same. And it's like, I kind of now understand why people made like simple broken down stuff. Cause it just works. And this is kind of the best version of like just a simple song.
So this might be my favorite Bob Dylan song of all time. And it might even be my favorite Bob Dylan performance of all time. I think that this version is incredible. There is such a biting, sarcastic delivery to it, but with a genuine, earnest plea. And I think that he does an incredible job of balancing those two kind of sounds. The one line that hits me hard every single time is, your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend a hand, for the times they are a-changing. Basically saying, if you're not willing to help us make the world a better place for the people after us, and you're just here for yourself, get the fuck out of our way. Because you're doing nothing with your life. I think that it's such a powerful message. I think that the simplicity of the instrumentation really drives home the power of the lyrics. And yeah, as I said, this is probably my favorite Bob Dylan song of all time. But Kelly, what are your thoughts on this one?
Sometimes there's just artists that you just don't connect with. And Bob Dylan's one of those for me. And I'm fine with that. But that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate what good music and good structure is. It's just not what I've grown up. When I want folk, I want Simon and Garfunkel. And that's just fine. But I agree, this is one of the ones that I would gravitate towards if I wanted to listen to Bob Dylan, because I love the ebb and flow of it all. Like it just, I don't know, it just reminds me of being on a boat for some reason. Like I'm just like this. Like it's just got that.
When the times they are changing, that's the story.
So I do like this one a lot. As I've just said, 59 to drop all the way off is big. I think it definitely should have a place on the list. I think you're absolutely right. It has something to say. Most Bob Dylan songs do have something to say, but this one in particular does. So I would put this over a few of the other, what I would quote as like the more famous ones. Like I think this one's a little bit more special. So yeah. All
right. Well, we have finally talked about our last Bob Dylan song in this section of the list, or this subsidiary of the series. As we move on to number 55, Long Tall Sally by Little Richard. Kelly, I'm going to have us start with you on this one.
Again, I like some Little Richard. I like some good, 50s. Very similar to Chuck Berry, though. Like every song a little bit sort of sounds the same. I would say Good Golly Miss Molly's the better version of this. So I think maybe that's just the theme of what we're saying, is that the better versions of some songs made the list, and like the poor man's versions has made this subsidiary, as someone said. I think it's fine. I don't think I would push for it to be on a 500.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same thing. It's a really good song. I like it a lot, actually. There's a great energy to it. Little Richard is just one of those people who's just like wild, like throw caution to the wind kind of vocal performance. Really makes this song stand out. But when we have songs like Good Golly Miss Molly on the list already, arguably his best song, I guess we have like a representation of that kind of song already. If I was to say between the Little Richard songs we've talked about in this series, The Girl Can't Help It is better. The Girl Can't Help is a lot more.
It's something unique. Different. Yeah,
exactly. And that one sticks with me a lot more than Long Time.
Did we talk about Fergie when we talked about that one?
God!
There it is.
I was like, Andrew Barlick song sampled by Fergie confirmed.
In 50 years, when they redo it, someone's got to put Fergalicious on the list, and we're all going to die.
Well, thanks, Jack Harlow. I blame you, even though you're kind of cool. All right, so Brooklyn, your thoughts on this one?
So yeah, this is a carbon copy of Tutti Frutti, key and everything.
Hey.
Same thing as we were talking about with Jerry Lee Lewis. It was like, hey, you made Tutti Frutti. It made us a lot of money. Can you make another song that sounds like that? All right, cool. And I don't know what it is about Little Richard with girls with S in their name, but loves talking about girls named Sally or Sue but like, Kelly's need love. Britney's.
Oh, it's too early in the morning, darling.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate that.
But it's like,
it's like, okay, that's being recorded, Brooklyn. Save that for later.
No, different women's names. Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
Christabel. Let's go with that.
Roxanne.
Roxanne. Yeah, Roxanne.
Long tall Roxanne.
Roxanne. All right, let's move on. To number. All right, to number 53, When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge. I'm going to start with Brooklyn. Your thoughts on this this song? Fuck it. I'm going to go ahead. Just go ahead. Say it.
So what a sweet fucking song. I adore the hell out of this. I'm not going to lie though. When I first saw it, I thought it was. So I think Bryan Adams has a similar named song. It's like When You Really Love a Woman, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, this is similar to like Patsy Cline's Crazy, where it just has that nice soft piano, the bass line in the background. I think this is a term that I've slowly been building in, but this is just a great song to like slow dance to, like to waltz, just to kind of like take away from everything. And yeah, very of the songs that I've discovered so far, this is probably my favorite.
Kelly.
I'm going to spoil this. We're like an hour 30 into this nearly. When this list got sent to me, I was like so polarized because I'm like, there's either ones on here where I'm like, meh, we've had like double ups is what it felt like, or there's ones on here I'm like, how the fuck did this drop off? When I consider this to be like one of the all-time classics of music in general. Like I was so surprised that this got bumped off the list because when you think classic songs, I think this is one that gets up there. It's used so often in movies and TV. And it's just seems to be like if you have a love songs album, this is on it. Like if you bought a love song CD at a time, this is going to be on it. And I said before, like I don't love sort of generic-y love songs, and I think the lyrics are a little bit in this one. Took me a very long time to come around to it a little bit, but that doesn't mean that I don't recognize like just how beautiful it sounds and the music in it. The music is what sends me, and then Percy Sledge's vocal, like that big highlight of love it. I can't believe it's off, to be honest.
So once again, this is one of my favorite songs of all time. But I see this song apparently in a completely different light than you guys do.
Ooh.
I think that this is a heartbreaking song. Because in the last verse, it's when a man loves a woman deep down in his soul, she can bring him such misery. If she plays him for a fool, he's the last one to know. Loving highs can't ever see. I've always taken this song as a man who was so in love with someone and she just completely walks out on him without telling him a single reason why. And I think Percy Sledge, I need to do more like digging into his discography because this man's got one of the greatest voices I've ever heard in my life. Like, I think that the power and the emotion behind this man's vocals are legendary in this song. Goddamn, I love this song so goddamn much. And so I'm right there with you, Kelly. I don't understand why the hell it's no longer on the list.
I think you're right, though. I think it is one of those ones that sounds like on your first listen or like to a very public eye, like it sounds very romancy. And then it's just until you actually really do start listening to it, it does give you that different take. I think it's one that sounds, and a lot of like soul songs managed to do it at the time where it sounds like it's upbeat or it's like one thing and it actually turns out to be a little bit darker, a little bit deeper, like things like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With that, let's move into almost 20 spots down. At number 34 on the original list, You've Lost That Loving Feeling by the Righteous Brothers. And I'm going to say it a goddamn again. Why is this song no longer on the list? I think that this song is excellent. The vocals on this are just so perfectly balanced. Like the interplay between the Righteous Brothers is really strong on this one, especially on the bridge where what's his name? It's Bill something or other, the deeper voiced one, starts, and then the other one comes in, and it's like, baby, 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 baby. It's like that interplay is so good. I think this is Phil Spector's production, because it's got that wall of sound kind of style, and I think it works incredibly well in this one. And that melody, it's so good. It's so smooth but sticky and memorable. I'm trying to read the faces of everyone else in this call right now, and I'm a little nervous. Brooklyn.
It's fine. Of the Righteous Brothers, the Everly Brothers, the Doobie Brothers, the Mario Brothers, it's the
Wright brothers.
The Wright Brothers, yeah. The Yin Yang Twins. But yeah, it's fine. I like the instrumentation on it. I think this is the Righteous Brothers. Like this is their version of Wichita Lineman. Like heavy strings. I think there's like some timpani in there, so there's a bit of like orchestral kind of vibes in there. But yeah, to steal a word that you like to use, Andrew, I love the dichotomy of the voices. The nice high falsetto and then that low bass.
That was the word I was trying to look for. Thank you for saving my ass, Brooklyn. This is my fan. Kelly.
Yeah, I think this really shows, as I just said, like the turn of what we now have reverence for. Because to drop from 34 down, I think this is just one of those acts, one of those songs that younger generations, younger writers, possibly our generation, like aren't feeling it as much. I love that you bring up. I don't love that you bring up, but Phil Spector and the Wall of Sound. I think like this very early 60s, this very early 60s. That's definitely a sound I very gravitate towards. Like I love Be My Baby and things like that. So I think this has just got bumped for the ones that have maybe stuck around a bit more. I think this is only sticking around because of movies and pop culture, not because of people going out of their way to listen to it. Like,
I was about to bring up Top Gun as we close out this one.
So maybe when we do this list again, it's going to come back around again. Who knows? Because we've got the Top Gun resurgence. So.
You know what? I've got my fingers crossed personally. All right, let's go to the final song that was cut off from the 2010 list. And who else would it possibly be other than Elvis Presley again?
19.
Number 19.
19 to not even make 500.
Kelly, would you like to?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
No. I'm like, oh, this is a perfect lead-in. Go.
Yeah, but it is, and I've just been saying, I don't mean to sound repetitive, but to drop all the way off of a list, like, what does that say? That feels very intentional. So whether that's because there's just so many other Elvis songs that are making the list that stick around, but I think this is track 1 of Forrest Gump soundtrack disc 2. Like this is a big pop culture song. So I do think that is very intentional to leave it out. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I'm going to speculate whether that's because, as I said, that's because we've got other Elvis songs, but I don't know what other Elvis songs you sort of put on that. Okay, it's not the most lyrically heavy song. It doesn't have message, but like for pop culture wise, Hound Dog's massive. Hound Dog's a massive hit, and I would put it on for the history of it. But why would it be off?
Well, Kelly, let me tell you, and I think Brooklyn will agree with me when I say this.
Yeah,
it is on the other list. It is on the official list.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
I think that this falling off from 19 and the Big Mama Thornton version being on the official list now is history course correcting itself.
Yeah.
Giving credit to the person who should have gotten credit for this song, the woman who essentially built rock and roll because this was her song, Big Mama Thornton. Now, that's not to say I don't think that this is a bad version. I actually really like this version a lot. Granted, I like the Big Mama Thornton version better, but I think that this is a great version. We had at least 2 or 3 occasions of a original version and a cover being on the list twice. And I think this could have done that. But once again, I think this was a moment of history course correcting itself. And you know what? I'm cool with that.
That's all right with me.
Yeah, that's all right. To circle this back around to this, Brooklyn.
So Fox and NBC once had, or actually, I think they still have, a great show called Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And on that show is a great character called Captain Holt. And if you're familiar with Captain Holt, one of his greatest memes is him fist pumping the air and vindication.
Damn.
I love it. It's a great way to close out this because it's just like I agree in that this is a good cover. I think it is. I think there is a way to kind of put it as a pop culture staple because I do think of Forrest Gump whenever I first hear it. But I will also agree with Andrew in that Big Mama Thornton is the superior version of this in every way, shape, or form. We had our time to talk about Elvis Presley on the top 100 list. He has Suspicious Minds. He has other ones.
He had Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah. If you wanted to throw, like, this is another one that if you wanted to throw on at like 500, yeah, sure. But I would have to be that old man in the corner to be like, this is a top 100 song, and here's why.
Yeah. And with that, Elvis has now left the building.
Just
So,
a good
guys, we've reached the end of all of the songs that have been cut from the 2010 version of the Rolling Stones Top 500 Songs. Let's end this episode off the way that we end off every other episode by saying, he's
Hello,
back.
boys. It's me again, Mr. Producer Man. Well, I guess you got through a second season, I guess. Even though this time you put in a significantly less amount of work. That's the Mr. Producer Man way. Good on you. You're actually learning something. Also, hi, Kelly. It's good to see you. Talking Disney is one of my favorite podcasts.
Doing
I'm a huge
Disney,
fan of
mother-
yours. Thank you for coming in and actually showing these boys how to actually host a show. But, yeah, so I guess I'm going to say congratulations on the second season. And I also wanted to say, how dare you?
The fuck?
How dare you? Do you know how much work Rolling Stone magazine put into making that 500 list?
Fighting for
The most recent one and the
Fighting for the
2010s
man.
one and the one before that? Yes, there was one before that. No, we're not going to go over that one as well. Got most of the same songs on there. What are we going to do? Talk about like 7? But how dare
Not a bad
you?
idea.
What, you think you can make a better 500 list? Go ahead, try. I dare you. I double dare you. I triple dog dare you. Now you have to do it. But yeah, bring that back to me, and then we'll talk. Mr. Producer Man, out.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, that's
bitch.
right, Mr. Producer Man. You're fucking on.
A couple things though that kind of concern me. Producer Man has an interesting office chair. Looks very wide. And how pretentious are you to hold an unwrapped cigar? Does Mr. Producer Man even know what a cigar tastes like?
Okay, Mr. Producer Man, you're on. Brooklyn and I are going to make our own top 500 songs of all time list. And you know what? We're going to present it on this channel. And we're going to have people, specifically a few in mind, judge us for it. So stay tuned, y'all. But let's end the show. So let's start off with the questions that we ask everyone. So out of all of these songs, y'all, which one of these should have never made the list to even begin with? And I think there's a couple. There's a couple that I think we could probably go with, and I'm probably going to say that the one that should have just never made the list to begin with, I'm going to go with That's All Right by Elvis Presley. It's kind of just like a nothing of a song. It's one of the least memorable songs we've covered on this series, and I have no idea why this was even on the list at all. Brooklyn, what about you?
Bibapalula or if there was ever a song that you could define as a hack, this is it. This is a hack.
Wow. And Kelly.
I was thinking Bebopalula, but I'm going to go with the one that I literally cannot remember how it goes with Mystery Train and Elvis Presley. There's a whole 30 songs I would put on this list before that, so of Elvis. So yeah, I'm going to go no. That's a no from me, dog.
Good reference.
It's a no from me, hound dog.
So, which one of these songs should be put back on the official list?
Everyone go before me so I can pick one that I hopefully that you guys agree.
Brooklyn, we're starting with you.
I mean, we were talking about it already, but for what it's worth, I think needs to be there. I think this is one of the few times where we could almost have a unison answer for the one that should go back on the list. But yeah, I like unison answers because it's nice to like be all in agreement on like a certain set of songs.
You know what, Brooklyn? I agree with you. For what it's worth, would be my pick as well. But because I want to help Kelly out by knocking off another one of these songs, I'm I'm going to throw my hat into the ring for When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge.
Okay.
All right, Kelly.
So it comes down to the box of Norwegian Wood or You Can't Always Get What You Want from me, but I think I'm going to put You Can't Always Get What You Want. That really does have something special about it. That's got a quality. So I think that deserves to be on the list.
All right. The other ones you mentioned as well. God, there was like
The
5
box
or
of the
6
K-pop is really hard.
that. Yeah. But one final question. Just because that would be your song for the best song in the list, does that necessarily make Mike Hanley? Mike Hanley.
But what if we don't have gonads?
Well, then we'll let Kelly answer first.
Wow. I've been propositioned. I don't have gonads. I see how it is over here. What is your favorite on the list? Which list, darling? Like
This
what we
one,
talked today?
of the songs that we covered.
Of what we covered today? Norwegian Wood.
Yes.
Norwegian Wood's the go for me. That's just so sentimental to myself. If it's the only one that's on my normal Spotify list. Yeah, I think it's just beautiful.
Brooklyn.
For what it's worth, still.
Okay. And well, because Brooklyn picked that one, I'm going to go. I'll pick The Boxer by Simon & Garfunkel.
That's tough to leave off on this 3 question. Well, I mean, yeah, of the 2 questions that it could have been on.
I know, yeah.
For What It's Worth is a very strong song, so.
Agreed. Yeah. For What It's Worth, as I said, is in my top 10, but because Brooklyn picked it, I wanted to give love to other songs. But guys, that's it. That's the end.
But Andrew, we have more.
Oh, do we? What else do we have, Brooklyn?
Well, weren't we gonna you know how TBS announces their fall lineup to kind of hype up the viewers?
Yeah, of course.
So there's actually going to be another show kind of going intermingled with this. So one thing that we kind of discussed between Andrew and I, because a little peek behind the curtains, doing a 500 list takes fucking forever, and it has to age like a really nice like brandy or a really nice port. But in between that, we're actually going to be bringing back an old show. If you remember Jukebox Jam Sessions, that was a one-on-one interview show. That is coming back, but it's going to be called Setlist. So it is going to be a one-on-one interview series that is going to go opposite of whatever this new show is called. And I think the last time I did it, there was 15 questions, but now it's just brought down to 10. That's coming soon. Yeah. And the questions are your favorite artist, favorite song to dance to, favorite song on the current top 500, favorite concert, favorite music video, favorite musical. We'll get into scores and soundtracks because we really have to honor that this is a movie community and that there are some really nice scores and soundtracks. We're talking about overrated. But if you're interested in that, reach out to Andrew and I. We have a couple people already lined up. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really cool time.
Yeah, absolutely. So check that out. I did an interview with musician Ray Raddick a couple weeks ago. Also check that out, the recording session. And then season 3 is coming soon. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. We love having you guys.
I love hanging out with you guys.
Of anybody to end season 2, I'm glad that we have Kelly here. Because Kelly loves all the things. And I just
Kelly's basic.
not even that. I'm just glad that somebody else said it's ABBA is queen. It's
I think we found the next title for Kelly's new show. Kelly Loves All the Things with Kelly Meehan.
I love it. It's on brand.
Nailed it. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, close it out.
So thank you all for watching this season of Like 500 Stones, also known as Off the Stones. For Kelly Meehan, for Brooklyn Vale, and for myself, Andrew Barr, keep on rocking.
Pricey.